The morning sun shone brightly through the windows of a small, quiet home. The air was still, filled only with the faint hum of the air conditioner, the rhythmic sounds of a peaceful neighborhood, birds chirping in the trees and distant cars driving by, provided a soundtrack to an otherwise calm day. Inside the house, a young mother sat on her couch, cradling her newborn baby in her arms. The baby's soft breath came in gentle, rhythmic bursts, and its tiny hand grasped her finger with all the strength it could muster. The woman gazed down at her child, overwhelmed with love. It had been a long, sleepless night, but now, with her baby in her arms, the world seemed perfect. She felt as if nothing could touch her in this moment. This feeling of tranquility, of absolute safety, was the only thing that mattered. But Max, her loyal canine, knew otherwise. Max had always been more than just a dog. He was her protector, a steadfast companion who had been by her side since she adopted him. A large, muscular German shepherd, Max had a sharp mind and a keener sense of awareness than most humans. Yet today, as the woman sat lost in thought, Max was anything but calm. He stood near the door, staring out into the quiet house with an intensity that was uncharacteristic of him. His tail was still, his muscles taut, and his ears were perked in a way that made the woman sit up straighter. His usual calm demeanor had vanished. Instead, Max was brimming with energy, his body like a coiled spring, ready to act at a moment's notice. Then, without warning, Max let out a low, ominous growl. This wasn't a playful growl, one born out of excitement. We saw a squirrel outside the window. No, this growl was deep, full of intent and warning. The woman looked down at Max, confused and slightly startled. "Max, what is it, boy?" she asked softly. But Max didn't respond, other than to growl more intensely. His focus remained fixed on the door, and there was no mistaking the urgency in his eyes. The woman felt a sense of unease rising in her chest. Something wasn't right. She rose slowly from the couch, her baby still in her arms, and took a step toward Max. She gently tried to push him aside, but he resisted, standing firmly between her and the door. It was as if Max was saying, "Don't go near it. It's dangerous." Her heart started racing, and she tried to reassure herself. Perhaps it was nothing. Maybe he was just reacting to a passing sound outside, or the wind, or a shadow moving across the yard. But as she stared into his eyes, she couldn't shake the feeling that Max knew something she didn't. Something bad was waiting just beyond that door. Max's growl continued, growing louder and more insistent, filling the room with a palpable tension. The woman felt a knot in her stomach tighten. She had known Max for years, and she had never seen him act this way. He had always been protective, but this behavior was something else entirely. This wasn't just an animal reacting to a noise or unfamiliar presence. This was something far more serious. With her mind racing and her heart pounding in her chest, the woman stood frozen in place for a moment. She looked at Max, wondering what could possibly be on the other side of the door that could evoke such a response from him. She had never felt fear like this before. In the past, Max had always been the one who comforted her, the one who kept her safe, but now she felt more vulnerable than ever. Max, as if sensing her hesitation, took another step forward, blocking her path with his large frame. He was unyielding. His growl was now a low, constant rumble that sent a shiver down her spine. The woman's legs felt heavy, but her instinct to find out what was going on outside the door pushed her forward. She had to know what was happening. With trembling hands, she reached for the door. Max barked once, sharply, and she stopped. His bark wasn't angry. It was a command, a clear warning not to open that door. The woman hesitated. Her mind flashed through various possibilities. Could there be an intruder outside? Maybe a delivery person who had come to the wrong house? Could it be a wild animal, like a raccoon, making a noise that was alarming Max? But as she stood there, the uncertainty in the air began to feel suffocating. The silence, the intensity of Max's growls, and the feeling in her gut told her that whatever was beyond that door, it was something dangerous. Max wasn't just being protective. He wasn't simply reacting to a sound. He was trying to protect her. He was trying to stop her from stepping into harm's way. Unable to ignore the pressure building inside her, the woman made a decision. She had to know what was causing Max's reaction. There was no way she could live with herself if she didn't find out. With great care, she gently nudged Max aside. He hesitated for a moment, but eventually stepped back, allowing her to open the door. Her heart raced as she turned the knob and slowly pushed the door open. As the door creaked on its hinges, the woman braced herself for whatever she might find. The first thing she noticed was the smell. It wasn't strong at first, but it quickly became apparent. A strange, almost metallic odor filled the air. Her stomach turned as she realized what it was. Gas. The unmistakable, pungent smell of natural gas. Her heart sank. She stepped back instinctively, slamming the door shut behind her. Her breath caught in her throat, and she felt a wave of panic wash over her. The kitchen was filled with the smell, a thick, dangerous cloud of gas that had been seeping into the air for who knew how long. Max had known. Max had smelled it long before she did. The woman's mind raced as she connected the dots. If she had opened that door even a minute later, or if Max hadn't been there to warn her, things could have ended in disaster. A spark, a tiny flicker from a light switch or the stove, and an entire house could have gone up in flames. Max had saved her life. Without a second thought, she grabbed her phone, her hands shaking as she dialed emergency services. "There's a gas leak in my house. Please send someone quickly." The seconds felt like hours as she waited, her eyes darting nervously around the room. She checked the windows to make sure they were open, making sure she did everything she could to ventilate the house. She carefully turned off the gas valve in the kitchen, ensuring the danger was contained. But all the while, the thought echoed in her mind. What if Max hadn't warned her? What if she had ignored his growl and opened the door anyway? She looked down at her faithful companion, who was sitting calmly by her side, his tail wagging slowly. It was as if nothing had happened. He hadn't asked for praise. He hadn't expected anything in return. He had done what he was born to do, protect her and her baby. The emergency responders arrived quickly, securing the gas leak and venting the house to ensure it was safe. As they worked, the woman stood in the living room, her mind still reeling from what had just happened. Max sat quietly beside her, his alert eyes watching the scene unfold, but his demeanor was calm. He had done his job. He had protected his family. He had saved their lives. The woman's heart swelled with gratitude. She had always known Max was special. He had been her loyal companion through thick and thin. But today, he had proven just how far his loyalty went. He had acted on instinct, sensing the danger long before she could even smell it. She knelt down beside him, her hands gently stroking his fur. "Thank you, Max," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You saved us." Max looked up at her, his eyes calm and steady as if to say, "I'm just doing my job." And that was all Max needed. He didn't need a medal or a certificate. He didn't need recognition. He simply wanted to make sure his family was safe. And in that, he had succeeded. As the emergency responders finished their work and left, the woman sat down with her baby, still in awe of what had just transpired. She knew she could never fully express her gratitude to Max for what he had done, but in her heart, she would always know the truth. Max had saved them both. Max wasn't just a dog. He was a hero. He was her protector, her constant companion, and the guardian of her family. His instincts had saved them from a disaster they couldn't have predicted, and in that moment, she realized just how deep their bond ran. She hugged him tightly, whispering once more, "Thank you, Max. You'll always be my hero." Max, ever humble, gave a soft wag of his tail and nuzzled his head against her hand. He didn't need anything more. He had done his job. The woman smiled and sat back, feeling the unbreakable connection between her and Max. It was a bond built on trust, loyalty, and a love that went beyond words. Max had proven once again that sometimes the heroes we need come in unexpected forms.